This video is for teenagers and teenagers only. If you are not a teenager, actually, you can stick around because your childhood educational system probably steers you the wrong way when it comes to all things sex, pleasure, and relationships. Hi, beautiful soul. My name is Levitia, and I got my start on social media by talking about how I lost my virginity on TikTok when I was 24 years old. Well, let me show you those sentences are separate. So I shared my virginity with my partner at the time when I was 24 years old, and I talked about it on TikTok. I did not lose my virginity while on TikTok. Anyways, I am here to help you have a better relationship with your pleasure. When I was younger, I remember there was this woman, I think her name was Dr. Ruth. She would come on at like 1 a.m. on one of like the public access channels, which I think was probably huge at the time. Or maybe it was like CBS or PBS or something like that. But anyways, it was an older white woman, and I just couldn't really relate to her. I'm sure she had some gems. I'm sure she was probably way ahead of her time, but that was who was the forefront of like the pleasure movement in my mind. Now that I'm 30 years old, I would love to be the person that helps facilitate you to have not only a better relationship with pleasure, but a better relationship with yourself. The goal of these videos is to not teach you how to have sex. The goal of this video is to not encourage you to have sex, but it's also not to discourage you from feeling curiosity, because I think that it's just something that naturally flows through us. I do have a goal to help provide tips so that if you do decide to explore, which many young people do, to do it without shame, to do it without secrecy, and to do it with tools that can help you feel more safe. So in this episode, we are going to simply talk about anatomy, because I think that is an important part of being able to dive into your pleasure as a whole. And then I'd love for you to comment and let me know what other things you're curious about as a teenager or as an adult, because honestly, if you were an adult, your inner teenager was probably neglected when it came to sex education and pleasure education. So I'm here to help you heal that. So let's just dive in. So today's lesson is going to be a mini lesson on anatomy. I am not going to give you a mass overwhelming amount of information because it's overwhelming and it's hard to retain sometimes. So we're going to do a very simplified anatomy lesson about a vulva. Now, if you are interested in learning about male anatomy, please let me know and I will be sure to dive into that as well. But for now, we are focused on female anatomy. So this is a vulva. A lot of people actually call this a vagina. It's not. This is all a vulva. What your vagina is this part right here. This is your vaginal entrance. So we'll start from the bottom and we'll go up to the top. So your vaginal entrance, this is right, this is it. This is where the baby is pushed out of. This is what expands and allows a baby to come out of it, okay? So this is the vaginal entrance. This is not where urine comes out. The vaginal entrance right here, this hole, is not where urine comes out. That is when you move to this hole. This is called your urethra. Do you see this little hole? That's called your urethra. And that is where urine is going to come out of. So this is where the babies come out of, and this is where your urine comes out. Now, moving on to, we have the inner lips, right? And then we have the outer lips. So these inner lips are called labia minora. And I like to remember the smaller ones are min, like minimal, like min. So labia minora, right? So minora. And then you have the labia majora. And I think, oh, majora, majority. It takes up a majority of space on your vulva. Those are like my little hacks for remembering your labia minora and your labia majora. And then you have your clitoris. Okay, so your clitoris actually has an internal part which looks like this. And we will talk about this eventually, but I do not want to overwhelm us, so we're just gonna talk about the external clitoris for now. But just know that your clitoris actually lies beneath or behind your vulva, okay? So this is your clitoris, this is the clitoral hood. So the hood, this little like upper flap right here, is basically, I think, what protects your clitoris, but everybody has a different kind of clitoris. So for instance, this clitoris itself has, I believe, 8,000 nerve endings, up to 8,000 nerve endings, but then somebody else just said that it was 10,000 nerve endings. The saddest part about this is that it's going to be a lot of contradictions in these videos because there's so much mass amount of information coming out about women's anatomy as a whole, and it's always changing. So we're just gonna keep evolving as the information evolves. Because at one point I heard that they were really basing it off of the clitoral nerves of a cow, which is how we got 8,000 nerves to begin with. Anyways, allegedly it's 8,000 to 10,000 now of nerves in the clitoris, but all I know is that this is your pleasure spot. The clitoral hood is going to look different on everybody. The same for the labia minora and the labia majora. Some people will have larger clitorises. Some people will have clitorises that actually look like small penises, right? It's just, there's like a science behind it as to where I think that all anatomy starts out the same, and then depending on the chromosome or something like that. I will learn more about it. I don't want to miseducate you all. This is how I keep going down these rabbit holes of educational tidbits that are just too much information to receive at one time. So let's break it down again. This is the vaginal hole. Perfect. Vaginal entrance. This is where the urine comes out. Perfect. And then this is your labia minora and your labia majora. Yes. And then this is your clitoris. Bing, bing, bing. And your clitoral hood. Okay. So we're going to stop there right now for the lesson. Feel free to see a closer up shot of this. Gorgeous. Beautifully stunning. And that's your anatomy lesson. That's it. That's all. I don't want to overwhelm you. We can talk about your upper anatomy at some point, your beautiful breasts. We can talk about the anus. We can talk about so many different things. We can talk about erogenous zones. There's so many things to dive into. But I think it's just really important to start off with the basics, which is what is even going on down there. The other thing that I do just want to mention really fast is that a lot of us have called this a vagina, right? A lot of people say, oh, your vagina is self-cleaning. So when you think that this is your vagina, you think that this is going to clean itself until you realize that the vagina is the internal part past this entrance. That is the part that is self-cleaning. Therefore, it is very important to clean the inside of our vulva, to get into the creases very gently with an unscented soap and water, and making sure that you clean out that soap very, very well. And then also noting that overly cleaning your vagina, right? So say that there, when you're going through puberty or something, you may have different scents, you may have different things going on. Overly cleaning your vagina can actually cause more problems than it can fix, okay? So we will talk more about that in another episode, but I just want to make sure I just touched on it because it is something that's very important. So this is the vulva. The vulva is not self-cleaning. The vagina, right there, is self-cleaning internally. So you do not want to wash with soap inside the vagina, because that is when you can mess up your pH, and we'll dive into what your pH is as well in the next video. So let me know, what do you want to know? What are you curious about? What have you always wanted to ask your parents but just didn't really know how to ask them? Let me know. I cannot wait to help you out. And please feel free to check out the Ethereal Pleasure Academy. It is a safe online space for you to learn more about yourself and about your pleasure. I love you so much. Please give yourself a hug for me. And don't forget to be kind to yourself and to be kind to others. Mwah. And to be kind to animals.